Thank you for coming. My name is Shakti. And I want to talk to you today about a topic that I feel quite strongly about and that I seem to be doing a lot of work on. And it's about sexual trauma, releasing sexual trauma through the body. And kind of the subtitle that I gave this is How the Old Wounds Sing. Because they do come to sing to us, and they do bring us gifts. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk to you about sexual trauma. What is it? What can cause it? How do you know that there's sexual trauma around? And then I want to talk about how in a session do we go about evoking sexual trauma, which is basically what we do. And then the last bit is going to be about how do we work with releasing sexual trauma. Okay, and I'm talking from a tantric perspective, as we are doing it in the Tantra school. Okay, and feel free to come in. I've got a lot to say, but please add in. And I'm hoping to talk through and give you plenty of time for discussion. So on what sexual trauma is, I think one of the things that's become very clear to me in my work with men and with women is that it is so common for people to have had some kind of sexual trauma at some point in their lives. In fact, I think it's very rare that people have not had some kind of sexual trauma. And I would say that one of the definitions of sexual trauma would be something around our sexuality which at the time that it was happening was too much for us to deal with. It was too much emotion, it was too overwhelming, it was too shocking. We couldn't cope with the contrast, with the paradoxes of the experience. So what happens then is that it goes into the subconscious. So the conscious can't deal with it, the body can't deal with it, the emotional system can't deal with it. So it goes into the subconscious, into the mud that we spoke about. What happens with what goes into the subconscious is that it goes to sit in our body, in our cellular memory. And from there, the body keeps giving us signals. And I'll speak more about that. The body keeps reminding us of what is not resolved yet. So we have this awesome teacher in our bodies, that our bodies want to tell us what there is, what is it that's not complete in us, so that whatever's been suppressed can come back into consciousness and can be reintegrated into our beings. So the question is, what actually causes sexual trauma? And what I found interesting with this is that there's a whole range of things that can cause sexual trauma. There is the obvious of sexual invasion. So say where genitals are involved, where there's been penetration that was not asked for, that's the obvious. But then there's also the less obvious, for instance, inappropriate touch. So which can be touch of any kind that at that point for the person, for the being, felt like it was invasive. And an example of that is for instance, when a little child, and I got this one from Rahasia, when a little boy gets given an enema because his parents think that he needs this. And for the child, this feels sexual and it feels invasive, and it's actually a really big trauma for the child that sits in the body. And it's not directly sexual, but there's something about this which has a kind of a sexual undertone. Then there's also the emotional incest aspect, which I think is a very big thing. It's when a parent or an adult, or sometimes even another child, behaves in a way towards a child which invades their etheric body, their emotional body. So emotional body is literally kind of outside the physical body. This is the emotional body. If you want to locate it, it's just outside. So if you ever have a chance, just experiment with that, with just touching another person over here and feel the reaction in your own being and the other person's being. So, you can physically locate the emotional body. But I think that there's a lot of what gets registered in the body as sexual invasion or sexual trauma that actually was emotional trauma, emotional inappropriateness. And a way in which I see that quite often, interestingly, in my practice, is boys whose mothers were over-attached to them and actually emotionally attached to them in a way that felt bordering on sexual for the boy. And it can cause huge trauma for that boy. Then, let's see. So yeah, so you get the feeling that there's a whole range of experiences that can actually register in the body as sexual invasion. It's not necessarily direct sexual trauma. One of the other big ones is when an adult judges your experience as being wrong. So this happens often, that a child has an experience, say, innocently playing, exploring their bodies, getting together, exploring each other's bodies. And the adult discovers this and goes, oh, you did something terrible. And that judgment that the adult puts on the child can cause unbelievable trauma in the child's body. Because for the child, that experience was innocent exploration. It was a healthy expression. But suddenly the adult now comes and makes it wrong. And so the complexity of this in the child's being, you can just imagine the overlays of misunderstandings and confusions that can happen. Signs of sexual trauma. So how do you know if somebody comes and works with you that that sexual trauma is happening or has happened in the body? And maybe if anything comes up for you, if there's something you want to say at this point, what comes to mind to you? What are the signs?
Disassociation.
Disassociation, yeah.
The great need for outward acknowledgement, sort of lack of central persona really. Persona is only going when there's lots of nice acknowledgement coming.
Yes.
It's excitement.
Yes. That's a big one.
What Dave was saying with disassociation, just define that.
Yeah. So disassociation is, for instance, when this happens a lot with women, that they're with a partner or lovers, even somebody that they love very much, and they cannot let themselves in on the fact that they're making love. That's one way. So not being where you are.
Not being present or being able to be present in that situation.
My own experiences in dealing with my own traumas is that part of it is kind of manifests as neurosis.
Right.
And the other time it flips and becomes a little bit psychotic. It's like maybe linked to disassociation in that one is not in touch with reality, with what's really happening.
Right. Is that what you mean by psychotic? Yes.
No, the combination of the two.
Right. Yeah. Do you want to say more about psychotic?
Sorry?
Do you want to say more about psychotic?
For me, it's more the external. It's them.
Right. Okay. The cause of you see an enemy outside.
Yeah.
Right.
But there are times that I will be hitting on me.
Right.
Or maybe it's me, or it's this, stuff. Yeah. But within, like finding myself guilty.
Yeah.
Or maybe inability, the third part, inability to see whether I'm guilty or in truth I'm just messing up.
Right.
I'm not really seeing the truth, but yeah.